Hi, I'm at Wine Connection in Sukhumvit Soy 47. You might ask yourself, what do food, sex, politics, reincarnation and superstition got in common? Well, to find out, you just need to read any of John Burdett's books. Let's talk to John. Hi John, welcome to the show.
Keith,
thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. John, tell us, what was your first impression when you set foot in the kingdom?
Well, it's hard to describe the way Thailand was 30 years ago. It was so relaxing after Hong Kong. I was working in Hong Kong. Hong Kong was the most stressful country in the world after Beirut, which was at war, and you come to Thailand and it was relaxed. It was the land of smiles. And it was, it was an addiction. It was love at first sight. I've been coming back pretty regularly ever since.
Yeah. Big difference from Beirut to Bangkok. quite the contrast.
Hope so.
Yeah. John, what was your inspiration to become a crime fiction novelist?
As long as I can remember, I've always wanted to be a writer. I always wanted to write fiction. And crime fiction, well, because it's the pace of the narrative, I think, with crime fiction, which draws people in. And by the time I was ready to publish a book, or just think seriously about writing a book for publishing, it was thrillers, crime thrillers, police thrillers that were selling. That was what publishers were interested in. And there was a lot of pressure really on publishers to publish crime fiction as opposed to other kinds of literary fiction, because people were no longer buying literary fiction. Now it's almost dead. Literary fiction hardly exists anymore.
Yeah. It kind of fits with your passion for Thailand and the culture, and also in Southeast Asia inherently has all these fantastic sort of crime scenarios, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and the thing about crime fiction is you have a cop as a central character. The great thing about cops is that they move up and down. They move vertically as well as horizontally in a society.
I've seen them move horizontally.
So, they meet the millionaires, the billionaires, and they meet the bag people on the streets and everybody in between. So it's a fantastic vehicle.
As a child, did you have a favorite author?
Well, when I got into popular fiction, my first love really was Len Deighton. Mm-hmm. He was there, doing the spy stuff long before Le Carré came along. When Le Carré came along, then it was Le Carré. Yeah. But yeah, the favourites were in that sort of genre was Len Deighton. As a sort of a romantic young man, I also loved G.H. Lawrence. But that's quite a while ago.
Yeah. But great writers, great books. Yeah. John, what's the process and elements required of a book to make it to film?
Well, I mean, you've got to have a strong narrative line. What a scriptwriter is looking for is a spine, because a film actually is much shorter than a novel. So he wants a spine, and using that spine can take bits of the novel and make a coherent movie out of it. That's what he's looking for. And if he can't find that, then very often he'll throw up his hands and say, well, I can make more money doing another book. So if your book is in the least bit complex, then you're going to have trouble getting it made into a movie. All my books have been optioned for movies. People have spent, film companies have spent money hiring the option. In the Hollywood system, you've got to have a star, and that star would have to be Eurasian. And there are not that many of those. You'd have to have a director who's at least familiar with Southeast Asia. There are not that many of those. You have to have a script writer who has an intuitive understanding of the culture. Otherwise, you get a wooden kind of interpretation of.
He doesn't get all the idiosyncrasies of the dynamic of the city.
No, you just get this sort of, almost like a sort of a supermarket version of Thailand, which wouldn't work very well. And it's not what the book's about.
Yeah.
So people keep trying. I'm grateful. That I'm selling the options. I wouldn't mind if they actually made a movie sooner or later.
I hope they do in the near future. Tell us about your latest release, your new book, and what Sonchai has been up to in the Bangkok asset.
Yeah, well, from the first book, Bangkok 8, people have been saying, well, when's he going to meet his father? Come on, I told him. You told us his father was a US vet in Vietnam. When are we going to meet him? What are we going to do about it? So that's been playing on my mind for more than a decade. And finally, I thought I'd go at it and see what happens.
And
there was no way of going into that without going into Vietnam. And incidentally, I don't think you can live in Southeast Asia without being terribly conscious of Vietnam and what happened at that time. So I've gone a lot more deeply into that, into Vietnam, into history, than I have in any of the other books. And it's produced for me a somewhat different kind of book. Everybody said so. It's different. It's bigger, it's wider, it's deeper, it's maybe, you know, a little bit less witty, a little bit less trying for laughs and for sensation, much more interested in going more deeply into the whole situation, where life is now in Southeast Asia.
Yeah. And there's a little trip to Cambodia in there as well. A bit of a twist, as you're known for.
Well, Cambodia, of course, is a completely different place. I mean, once you get into Thai superstition, there's nothing in Thai superstition that doesn't come from Cambodia. Cambodian script, which is very close to Thai script, is considered even today a magical script. All the amulets and so on are written in Cambodian script. It's considered the source of magic in Southeast Asia.
Very interesting. You don't really give away much, do you? If and when you read the Bangkok Acid, I'm sure you'll be taken on a journey, and he doesn't give away anything right up till the end. How do you blend? There's a lot of senses in your books. How do you blend food, sex, crime, superstition, reincarnation, and politics, corruption in your books?
Well, the blending really comes from my very first editor, a wonderful old American gentleman named Sam Vaughan, who's retired now. My first manuscript, he said, well, it's fine, but what does it feel like? What does it smell like? What is the noises? What are, you know, is it hot, is it cold? You know, is it raining? You know, tell us everything about what's happening within this character. And that was fantastic advice, and I've been following it ever since. And of course, once you base yourself in Southeast Asia, where the sensory stimulation is so much greater than most other places, you've got the food, you've got the heat, you've got the smells, the good and the bad smells, and you know, the whole thing.
The spices,
and let's face it, you've got the notorious sensuality of parts of Bangkok as well. All come into it, and what it makes so is an organic character moving through the city. That's what I really wanted to aim for.
It's kind of like an octopus with tentacles everywhere, isn't it?
Well, we are. If you think about our senses, you know, that's what we are, really.
John, I know you travel a lot through Thailand. Can you tell me a little bit about your experiences and places, cultures, and unusual things you experience while you're traveling through Thailand? Yeah,
well, Thailand's an amazing place. It's a hub, as everybody knows, but I don't think you see the significance until you travel around. I've been into the deep south, the Muslim south, on the border with Malaysia, and quite extraordinary to see young Muslim men come over for to sample the charms of the Thai girls waiting on the other side of the border, where the
completely prohibited in their own countries.
Prohibited, and as well as the alcohol, and of course their currency is the local currency in the south of Thailand, the Malaysian ringgit, isn't it? And up north in Isan, well, I mean, half the people you meet on the streets are from Isan in Bangkok. When someone from Isan talks about their country, they don't mean Thailand, they mean Isan, and it is a different culture. They know very well it used to be Laotian, and their dialect is really a dialect of Lao, not standard Thai at all. And it's a completely different attitude to life. Very poor, of course. The northeast of Thailand doesn't have the same fantastic fertility that the rest of the country has, and you get completely different traditions. And of course, until about 40 or 50 years ago, Thai Buddhism out in the country went hand in hand with animism, with their local pagan beliefs. And you still find that. I stumbled upon what they call the 10 Village Festival in May one year up in Isan in Loei. And it was extraordinary. It was a huge festival. 10 villages participated in it. Annual festival. 10 villages participated in it. It was terribly well organized and rehearsed. There wasn't a sign of Buddhism for the whole of the 3 days. And you got people dressing up in all sorts of costumes. You got young men who were taking the part of the devil, therefore they were completely black from head to foot and held a trident in their hands. I mean, looked almost Hindu at times. It really is
pagan.
Pagan. It really is a place of extraordinary variety and fascination.
That's a huge turn.
10 village festival. They take it terribly seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, they rehearse, they have the costumes and everything.
Yeah, wow.
And of course, in Thailand, it's bound up with luck. You know, it'd be unlucky if they didn't do it. So,
Okay, very interesting.
well,
Kind of like, yeah.
well, but what isn't in Thailand?
Yeah.
Everything is to do with fortune.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Right, yeah.
Great. John, how do you go about your research, your new books?
Yeah,
Places,
for me,
people, characters.
I don't think I stopped doing the research, and I think if my books are a bit different to the others, it's because I just hang out and listen to what people say and watch what people are doing, and just sort of become part of the scene rather than go around asking a whole lot of questions or reading a whole lot of books. I do that as well, but basically
More
hanging
personal
out.
interaction with.
Yeah, personal interaction with the people. I mean, the wonderful thing about Buddhist people is that if you ask them a question, they tell you the truth because they don't want the bad karma that comes from telling lies. So, I mean, you can just ask someone you've only been known for 5 minutes and they'll tell you their life story, which for a novelist is fantastic.
Yeah, and Thai people are very good like that, very open.
Marvellously open people and so easy to feel at home. You know?
What is your advice for young writers coming into the market, releasing their publishing, trying to get a publishing deal, their first book?
Well, I mean, you really got to have a body of work to show. I mean, you've got the first book, that's great. If you self-publish, and that's a good start. But don't expect to get anywhere with just one manuscript. These days, publishers, they really want to be confident that they've got someone they can run with, you know.
Yeah.
Because just one book, one off, it doesn't make a lot of difference to the publisher or to the author.
It's almost like having a business plan for your future, your first book. Oh, and this will be a series. Or
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, you know, it's not why people become novelists, but the reality is it's a business. If you want a good publisher, and that publisher's going to invest a lot of money in you, not just what he pays, but what they how they sell the book. You know, the advertising and the everything they pay for on the internet, because a lot
they
of
want to see return on their investment.
they have to. You know, it's a business like any other.
Where are your books most popular?
Well, the United States is by far and away the biggest buyer of my books. Australians like the books. Australians write to me, they like the references to Australians that I make from time to time. You know, it kind of makes them laugh because, of course, there are plenty of Australians in Southeast Asia.
Absolutely.
They're very familiar with Bangkok. But the biggest readership is in the United States, and I've been told that the prison population of the United States loves my books.
Wow.
I happen to have a
Interesting.
correspondent who was he was in jail in the States, and he was moved around from jail to jail.
Close and personal friend, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, I never met him. Email friend. But he's very smart and very, very literate, so he was a librarian at every single prison that he went to.
Wow.
And he said that your books are popular in all of the prison systems. And by the way, there's a 6'4" biker with tattoos who loves your books. He's just being released after doing 20 years for murder, and he's on the way to Bangkok. And maybe you don't want to meet him.
Yeah, maybe he'd like to meet up for a coffee. He hasn't become a writer, has he?
Well, I don't know.
He may in the future.
He could turn up any minute.
Well, he could actually turn up in one of your books.
Yeah, easily, yeah.
John Burdett, thank you so much for being on the show.
Pleasure.
It's been a pleasure talking to you.